Good evening, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 264, part 2 of Does FMA Need More Academies? If you recall, in the first episode, we kind of went over why there's not enough academies, and we kind of detailed, the reasons and current status quo. This episode, we're going to really address the need and how to go about it. And the guests are going to be saying who I think are doing phenomenal current status quo with their schools. So I think these two guys are just the best ones I have on here personally. And those are, again, Guro Ace and Datu Tim. And I'm going to be bringing them up shortly. So we're also going to just quickly address what constitutes an FMA school. There's been some talk. There was a post. I was trying to basically just get a list of ongoing schools for reference so people could seek them out. Along with that came some indiscrepancies. Well, I have one. This is one. But really, some of it was getting lost in translation. So we're going to just reestablish that tonight with these two guests. And without further ado, I will be bringing them up. Welcome, guys. Thank you. So I appreciate you guys doing this again, coming on in no less a weekend night when you guys could be doing probably 60 other things that would be better than coming on FMA Discussion. At any rate, I appreciate it. And, thanks again for doing this.
Good evening, guys. Thank you for allowing us to continue the conversation on something that's probably now being established as being something worth talking about.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I hope folks absolutely take advantage of listening to both. More importantly, this one, for those who are possibly on the fence who want to do this, perhaps having some anxiety and don't really know how to go about it. And I think that's where you guys are going to fill in the gaps with that. So without further ado, as I mentioned in the opening statement, we were going to touch upon, again, what constitutes a full-time FMA school. As you guys know, I put the post FMA Discussion more, again, to generate a list so folks could actually refer to the list and perhaps seek these schools out. It kind of took a trail, and you guys kind of saw some replies and what have you. So I thought we could maybe just touch upon that. So who wants to take first crack at what constitutes a full-time FMA school?
So Tim, go ahead. I know you had a very specific list.
So, listen, on a show, we don't really get into it. We can get into all the different dynamics. We got to make sure we have the difference between a school that offers FMA and a full-time school. And someone actually put a list up and mentioned a few clubs, and some of these clubs in question are friends of mine. And I didn't put their club up, and one of which is Tom Sippin's Four Winds Martial Arts. Now, Tom Sippin is very established in the Dos Pares community, has a video series out through Century Martial Arts and Panther Videos. But when you look at his schedule, the majority of classes are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I would not include him as a Filipino martial arts school. I would include him as a school that offers Filipino martial arts. He offers multiple programs. And if you put all the programs together, FMA is still the minority. It's a greater minority. So, one of the criteria for me, whether it's a full-time or a part-time school, and that's the other thing too, is you can have a full-time and a part-time commercial school. All right. So, and as a part-time, you have a day job. You're not using the school to pay for your bills. Full-time, this is what you do as a living. And I was a part-time, full-time where it was all FMA, but I had a day job, as I was building it up. So I think the other criteria is that it has to have its own building. Let's get out of martial arts. How many schools, educational facilities, the public schools, private schools, how many of them sublet from another building? I don't see a private school in a rec center. Prior to COVID, most churches ran out of its own building. And I know there are exceptions to that. what we're trying to do is establish what the norm is and not the exception.
Correct.
So I would say in any professional school, not necessarily a professional business, because you could be a professional instructor and still not have a professional school. You might be offering classes somewhere, and you might be very professional while doing that. So I want to make sure that I'm not trying to poo-poo anyone who's teaching.
No, I know. I didn't feel you were. I think you were just.
No, but I think people need to hear this, because if they don't hear it, it's like, do you teach seminars? Now, to me, teaching, I think about seminars outside my school, and I feel that there needs to be certain criteria of teaching seminars. As for a quantity, teaching 2 seminars a year to me is not even worth talking about. Where other people, that's a huge number for them because they've never taught seminars before. So it's all relevant. I don't want to put anyone down in the process. So I wanted to get that out first. But I would say, one, if it's going to be labeled an FMA school, then of all the classes that are going to be taught, the majority have to be FMA or FMA based. Okay. I think the other criteria we have to look at, and not a business like a school. I like to look at it, and maybe I'm wrong. It has to have its own facility, not subletting. And I'm not saying, hey, someone had the spot, they left early, and I'm subletting for them until their lease is over, and I'll take it over after that. I'm talking, I am in a gym, I'm in a church, I'm in somebody else's martial arts school, rec center, fill in the blanks. Now that's just the way I look at it. Now, once again, you could have a primary location with a bunch of satellite locations. There's a whole bunch of things we can get into it. And we could probably just do a show just on that definition if we wanted to. But, when I make comments in general and on this show, and I'll say it again, I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to be accurate.
No, that's what we need.
And when we talk about this, I'm not trying to beat anyone up on this. Mm-hmm. I'm just giving my opinion. And you know what? Not everyone's going to agree with my opinion. And I understand and I accept that. So I think that's the short of it. Standalone business. You've got your own place, and whether you're doing it full time or part time it pays for its own bills. Full time it pays for your bills.
Okay.
And the majority of the schedule has to be FMA.
Right, it has to be FMA classes. Guro, Ace, what would you like to add?
I agree. It's easy to agree with if the majority of the courses that you offer, and a lot of times that's what doesn't happen in traditional martial arts. If you're a Taekwondo school, of course it's Taekwondo classes, but you might have the occasional cardio kickboxing. Mm-hmm. But guess what? It's a Taekwondo school. I don't think anyone would ever say, now, funny story going back, I had a former business partner that said, wouldn't that be great to actually put up a sign that says Academy of Cardio Kickboxing, so it had its own entities. So that's the only time I deviate from Datu Tim's, where let's not use the rec center. Now, I've been offered quite several times. They'll be like, Ace, we got 25,000 square feet. I can give you 3,000 square feet. Well, when can I use it? No. That's your 3,000 square feet inside of this massive facility. So in a weird way, am I being sublet, or is it just like any other lease in a building? So this is where I would add on to the majority of classes is Filipino martial arts. If somebody called you and said, hey, I'd love to be able to try your Filipino martial arts, and they call you on Monday. If you say, great, the only time I can put you in is on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right? The majority of your classes is 3 classes, but that's still the majority. The thing is, are you a full-time operations if you can potentially offer them evening classes, daytime, weekend, privates, adults, kids? Yeah. Because if you went to the Taekwondo school, guess what would happen? Hey, do you have Taekwondo classes in the evenings, on the weekends, for kids, for adults? So to keep it on the same plane and be fair to even other martial arts, not saying, well, for martial arts, for Filipino martial arts, this is full-time. No, for martial arts, this is full-time.
Right.
That somebody can call you and say, and I get it, some people don't want to have morning classes, but you know what? Why turn down business? Because as Datu said, if that's your space 24/7, why wouldn't you? Because the only limitation is, well, I have a day job, that's why I don't have morning classes. right?
That's
So
not,
the reason you can't offer it and you are paying all of your bills because of this is, yes, majority of your classes is that. And I think you're going to talk about this later on. The availability of those classes are that. So
yes.
if somebody called you right now and said, hey, can you do a workshop for my community? No, I can't because of my daytime job. Well, that's a way to get people to your full-time facility by either hosting those workshops and not necessarily doing it outside, because you have it all the time. And if they said, well, I don't teach 8-year-olds. Well, do you not have 8-year-olds because you only have it at 8 o'clock at night? Or does your curriculum not dictate because you can't teach 8-year-olds because you don't have the experience to?
Right.
Now, how do you get experience? By actually having the course in the program. So you could almost look at it as, when you say the majority of courses are FMA, well, here are also the selection of those courses. Kids classes, are they 4 to 6? Kids classes, are they 7 to 12? Teen classes, so when you're even going to that further of the majority of those classes, all those categories could all still be FMA, but you're categorizing the majority of those of being FMA rankable classes, curriculum classes, things like that. So I agree 100% about that, but there is that potential that somebody could rent, pay all their bills. Maybe they're open 5 days a week, but who knows? Maybe the rec center gave you a great deal to make your living there and to be able to grow, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, that could still potentially be full-time. Just, you got to have the availability of the classes. Otherwise, you are turning people away.
Yeah. No, I think you're both kind of on the same page, just with that.
Yeah, I would look at that as a business versus a school, because I like when you said if you had an opportunity to have like 3,000 square foot, if you've got access 24/7, then boom.
Right.
And that's a different facility.
Yeah, exactly. Because some people are like, I'm subletting from a yoga place, but I only have it at 6 a.m.
But if you got 24/7 access with no restrictions of scheduling, or versus you can only do hours from certain times of the day. Let's say rec center. You could have a very good business working. I know a lot of schools that make good money teaching out of a rec center, or I know a lot of instructors who make that out of but it's not a dedicated school if you have to go by somebody else's schedule. Right. And that's leftovers. The thing here is we need, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, we need dedicated academies that you can go in at any time you want.
Yeah. I agree with you guys. Right. Availability. Are your classes the majority of them FMA? Do you teach all ages, etc.? So we got some folks here. Folks, if you are watching, please tell us where you're watching from and smash that like button. And we have folks already. We have
some really good-looking people online here.
Well, the three of us,
Eric O'Brien from Florida. We got Royce Ramos. We got Tuan Apollo, Richard Smith.
Is Chris spamming this?
Chris, yes, we got.
Is he spamming?
Miss Ramirez. We got Robert Small. We got Paul from Rhode Island. We got Richard and Frank. And we got Seafood Greg. All right. And we got Guri. Okay. All right. So, Guri, before we get deeper, I would like you to show your school to everybody before we get into questions. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Now, let me preface this by, this was not supposed to be a for public location. Okay. This was supposed to be my YouTube studio. This was where I was going to, because if you say, what is the Mecca for the tri-state area of Philippines, which has a rich history, right? The New York, New Jersey, it has a long kind of history of Filipino martial arts there. I'm in Norwood, New Jersey, and everyone would say, where? The 1 mile by 2 mile that way. So this was supposed to be an out of the way. If you look on the side, there's cameras left and right back over here, and it was just meant to be there. So on one end was just like, here's an area where we're just talking about, here we have our Pakidatirasha symbol for our style. Takes 10,000 reps. Here we are, and on the banners on the side, I know you might not be able to see it, but it's promoting there that we have a blade program, a women's self-defense program, a Santukan dirty boxing program. We have a junior Bayani. Bayani means heroes. So our junior Bayanis for 7 to 12-year-olds, those are what those banners are. We have a 4 to 6-year-old program, and that's the other banner So we call that a future Bayani. So it's a future hero, right? Catering to those to go into our regular program. And when we have testings here, we easily get like 100 people in here. They just, sit on the mat, the old traditional style. We have our bags to hit on the side, et cetera, my office area. And outside the other doors, out here is another office that we use just for more of the office area, left and right side. So for something that became an accidental full-time studio, it was accidental by way of my teacher saying, why don't you make that an FMA academy for the public?
Okay.
Nothing, right? Outside of that, it was one of those things where you say, Opo.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like I said in the last episode, I said it was a decision that was made. And we're at a unique time that wherever your school is, because we all know, like, you either pay a lot of money on marketing, because if it's not in on the main drag, you have to pay for more on marketing. But if it's on a main street, you pay more for real estate, right? So a lot of people come here that don't really live here because apparently there is a demand for FMA. And if we're just not meeting that demand, then, they just do whatever else is there in their martial arts community. So,
Okay. No. Well, both of you. Okay. And in the test run, we kind of identified a few things that we wanted to bring up and talk about. And one, clearly there's a need for FMA schools. I think right now there's on or around about, 20, give or take. I don't know the exact number. It's been fluctuating depending on who falls under the criteria, but it's around 20, I'm guessing. So clearly, as Datu Tim mentioned, that's not even one per state. So obviously the need goes without saying. Yeah. So I want to hear from Datu Tim, why the need for more FMA schools?
It's going to continue. Here's the problem. And I've lived this. All right. Remy Price. Okay. So I study modern. Remy Price has died. I studied combatant. Ernesto Price has died. Blintwalk with Ted Buat. He passed away. Now, the pattern has nothing to do with me. I'm just saying.
All right. We got that out of the way.
So Remy, the head of modern. Ernesto, head of combatant. Ted Buat was the only one that taught for Anshad Bakan and Blintwalk. Now, he didn't take the art to the public, but Bobby Tabuada did. What's going to happen when Bobby leaves for whatever reason? Now, having lived through this twice on big systems and watching what's happened on smaller systems, the arts will die without these dynamic leaders. What happens is, if you're not in a full-blown academy, a full-time academy, and so you got to look at the FMA in general. Who does FMA as a primary art? Who does FMA as their only art? How many people started in FMA? And if you are doing another system and something happens in the FMA world, you can go back to your other system because you have your safety net. You lose a network, you whatever. So, Modern East is a wasteland after what happened. I'm doing a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of dissension and bullshit going on. I've seen the same thing happen in combatant. I've seen the same thing happen in other arts. And because the FMA culture has been promoted more as a park type workout area, the mindset of looking for a school was never in anyone's head. But Remy and Ernesto had physical headquarters in the Philippines. They had physical studios. Not many Filipinos do. Matter of fact, so been there a whole bunch of times. The Doce Pares group has it because they tie it in with but they've got WECAF as part of that. So they have this whole big other thing going on. Yeah, okay. Riddell de Guck had our Nice Village. It closed because it wasn't doing the money. And then he built as he built up his stick business, he put a dedicated area on his property for school. And it's really nice. But he also has his supplies there as well. So it's not a business that runs by itself. It works in conjunction with the supplies. Okay. So I still think most of the money he makes is through his rattan, and then the martial arts is that bonus. Now he's committed. I mean, he goes to Lynetta Park from where he's at. That's like a 4 to 6 hour round trip every Sunday for nothing. What he makes from that is negligible, but it's that commitment to keep the art going. But what happens? So everyone goes to the park, but when he goes, what's going to happen? When all these guys go, how much is left over? And if we don't have, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it started with cross-training in the States, but there was academies in in Brazil that people went to. Okay, so you would have a school; they would promote schools. Remy was probably the most. He probably did more seminars than anyone else did. I don't know if anyone did the quantity of seminars, period, let alone Filipino martial arts, because that's all he did. He didn't have a school, and the majority of his clientele came from something else, so they would go back to something else. So,
Kempo schools or some type of,
and they'll absorb the curriculum. So, so let's say you have a school, Dean, and you add Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to what you're doing, but you're not doing as BJJ. You're doing as BJJ infusion to your main program, just to round out your skill set. You're not promoting BJJ. You're augmenting what you're doing. Okay, how does that help BJJ?
No, it's helping me, not BJJ.
It's helping you. So, and that's a model for a lot of Filipino martial arts. The people who cross-train in, they go back to the school and they absorb it in their main curriculum, which helps what they're doing in their business, but it doesn't help the community because
the overall art. Yeah.
We've seen the videos, and people can make fun of the videos that we've seen that people have been sharing lately in FMA discussion about people who are doing McDojo or Arnis, but it was the Filipino martial arts instructors who taught them. So we let into our own problem. We contributed. Well, not. Yeah, we all contribute one way or another to the issue. But the thing here is they go back and they'll just do their own thing. And then if an art has a problem, it doesn't matter. I got my own system here.
Okay. Guro Ace, what would you like to add?
I just showed that banner on the side where it says, takes 10,000 repetitions, right? If you are not in an environment that allows you to get those 10,000 repetitions, it just takes forever to achieve that enlightenment about the training and the art and the people. By having many different partners, right? A lot of the conversations I might have sometimes doesn't derive directly from FMA. We have to pull it from other things, just like he just referenced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as an example. It's a great way to do that, right? If I wanted to be very good at football, I want to look for a football program that is all about football and I can practice every single day.
Mm-hmm.
How long would it take me to get to those 10,000 reps that my teacher wants me to do if I can't find a partner? When COVID hit, one of the best things that happened was, in the iCali brand, we had an online program and people were training with, but here's the one thing we asked them. Go find a partner and train with. And you know what they all said? I don't have a partner to train with. So the Academy became that place where myself, the people who wanted to dedicate their lives to that, and the new people to find different bodies. Because again, anybody can get that stream, that DVD, that old VHS tape. And the challenge is what? I need a body with me. So the Academy is there to be a resource for those people that have that like-mindedness, that vision. So I'm taking it from that other point of view of, if I want to be good, and this was pretty popular with boxers and MMA guys, they got to find a place that has a lot of people.
Right.
So let me take it back to another one. I was fortunate enough to be asked to be a consultant for this team called American Top Team. For some people may not know them, but American Top Team is a pretty well-known and very well-funded organization, right? Like 25,000 square feet. When they asked me to come down, they were like, we have 47 black belts that compete in various organizations. Why was I brought down there? Well, since they're here, we need them to know how to answer the phone. We need them to, but the reason they collected all these people was they needed more people to train with to make themselves better, right? Because if somebody's like, man, I'm a contender to get a title, I need my team to be top notch. Not I visit them once a year, twice a year, I travel to a country. It's I need to be around them to be my environment, to be my culture, to be, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you plant a culture and you plant a place where somebody can be there, you're developing that tribe and that team to get faster, better. They're getting that mindset to keep the art going. They're pushing the boundaries because you always have a certain percentage of people that want to fight. But what happens when you have 5 or 6 people in the whole base? Then what's the percentage of that people will fight? But if you have 50 people, how many? What's the percent? The percentage is the same. It's just what's the pool of people that can get those people to want to express that art in that way, and others are just learning it, and other people are just doing it for recreation. So that's my answer of like, well, why do we need it? The instructor needs it because they need people to work with. The students need it because they need different bodies, right? So if I want to learn, I'm 5'3". If I need to learn how to defend myself against bigger people, but I have the same 3 people that are same size as me, how do I know that I can work against and train against and prove the art that can work unless I have those bodies that are there that actually want to work with me? So I'm looking at it from a more, I think it's from a practical point of view. How does the instructor keep training? How does the student ensure that what's being taught is also being shared with others so that I can improve and have what's considered like a healthy competition as I go up the ranks? Now, some people will just be like, well, I went to the Philippines once a year and I fight. I'm like, okay, what about the other 11 months out of the year? What's going on there? Right? To prepare for that Philippines trip, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the way I looked at it. I look at it from the whole point of when I teach, I'm going to have a whole school full of people saying, is that right? Is that so? I have to come up with those right answers. If nobody asks me those questions because I'm by myself hitting a bag, I don't even try and search for the truth. I don't even try and justify what my teacher had taught me is something that I should keep and pass on to somebody else. So I look at it from a more utilitarian point of view for that academy. And then whatever happens after that, if I'm doing the right thing, somehow it starts to grow. What you focus on grows. So if I'm focusing on making myself a better teacher and repping with more people, and I'm focused on other people, learning to fight or use the skills to be able to defend themselves, I am solidifying or reinforcing the thing that I am no longer treating as a hobby.
Okay. Yeah, I think you both well articulated that. One from a point of art time. You know, I've said it before on these episodes covering different things, and to me, there's a couple of arts, decade or two down the road, I think are going to be in jeopardy, assuming status quo continues like that. And we got some more folks jumping in. We got Ronnie jumping in. Master Ace is at 25 years teaching FMA. He knows how to be successful. You know, it sounds like he does. We got Guro Terry, and we got my man, Maestro Ray Floor from Down Under. All right. We've already kind of identified, you know, around 20. So obviously the need is there, and what you guys just articulated for different reasons and all that. For each of you, I want to, okay, Dr. Tim, what was that moment, that inspiration, that light bulb moment, which kind of kicked the gear in or what have you, as far as you taking that leap and just going ahead and doing it, opening the school?
Well, I was a student at the Filipino Karate Academy, which was owned by Remy, or which John Bryant was the instructor and Remy was a silent partner in. I had some issues with John. He started leaving the art, but I was teaching all the classes, and I wanted to get back into the training rotation. And one of the things we talked about is, well, you know, we'll get you back into training. Good, that's what I want. And then at the end of the conversation, we'll talk about, you know, your tuition and all this other stuff. And then he goes, well, so how do we feel? I go, well, what are we talking about tuition? What do you mean? I go, I taught for you for a year for you free and not getting any lessons from you. You actually think I'm going to pay? I mean, you sat in the office. I would teach all the kids classes. I would teach all the beginner adult classes. If we add these all up, I would teach 3 times the quantity of classes a week that you did for the last year and a half. There's no way in hell I'm paying for this. So I go, all right, you know what? Let's take a month off and we'll come back and revisit this. You think about it. I'll think about it. I never went back. In the meantime, Remy Prices heard that I left. He called me personally and said, I'll teach you. If you want to continue, I'll be your teacher. Okay. So my whole thing was I was just about getting my guys together. I was an instructor, but I wasn't a black belt. There was a differentiation in modern. So I had my teaching cred, so I started doing some stuff. Bill Adams, local karate guy, pretty much had the first commercial school ever in Buffalo, or professional. He goes, here's the keys to my Blaisdell club. You can use it after hours. Get your damn black belt. Then you can train anything else you want, because that's what I was talking about doing. So I trained my guys. I liked having something that I can train in. So then I had an opportunity to get into my church, and I was a youth counselor there. So I started teaching out of my church, but I didn't like having to, there's the room everyone wanted, and then there was my backup space. And I wanted the church that we were in the Christian Ed building, and they had an auditorium in the basement, and I wanted that because I didn't have to move anything, a lot more space. I had a place on the second floor, and it was okay. I mean, I had a good time. I could get in there when I needed to, but it was only 2 nights a week, but I could stay as long as I wanted. And but I still didn't want to have to play second fiddle on the schedule. A gym that I was working out at reached out to me while I was working out one day. I started putting a club there, and then it closed in the middle of the night. And then some friends of mine and I talked about it, and like 6 months after it closed, I opened up my school, and it kept going and going. It was a gradual progression, so it wasn't this aha moment. I just got to a point where it's like, all right, 2000, the beginning of 2000, I looked at what was coming in through the door, and I'm like, I think it's time to make that commitment.
Okay.
But it wasn't
ground up.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And for everyone that's doing the stuff that we give should be able to help everybody, whether or not you want to do this professionally, full time. This should be able to level up and help people just do a better job of certain things. If you're trying to say, well, how do I retain people better, or how do I get the word out a little better? Maybe I'm saying something wrong that's scaring away from people. This is the conversation. It could be. I mean, people who take my lessons, one of which is Ty Botting, who you've had on the show. He teaches free in the park, but he's used some of the concepts to do this. And because he has a job, or he has a career that he will retire from with a pension. He's not hurting for money. This is his passion. But you can take those same concepts and apply them to non-for-profit situations.
Yeah.
But that was it. And then 2000 on, this is all I've done. So I've probably about 91, it was a full-time, part-time, where I had a day job. My training's always been full-time modern arnis. I started in modern arnis, nothing else.
Gotcha.
Okay. And Remy used to push modern arnis, aka Filipino karate, because it was competing with karate in the Philippines. Right. So we would use that generic terminology because no one knows. Think about this. No one knows anything about Filipino martial arts. Use arnis kali eskrima. If you're trying to promote what you're doing, ditch those words. You don't need them.
We're going to get into
like we said on the show the other night, like I said on the show the other day, when it comes to promoting what we do, get the F out. We're martial arts. Taekwondo doesn't say they're Korean martial arts. Isshinryu karate doesn't say they're Okinawan martial arts. Fill in the blanks. They don't. All people are going to say is, yes, we have a martial arts school, and they'll tell you about their programs.
All right. You want ground up, so we're going to make that distinction, ground up, and now. And all that. And folks, I think Dr. Tim brought up a good point. I mean, just by virtue of listening to this, and if you're a business owner, whatever capacity you're doing it and all that, I think there's going to be helpful information on here. We haven't even got into marketing, consulting, curriculum. So this could easily be a part 3.
Oh, anyway, and by the way, when I'm drinking, this is an energy drink. It is not a beer. So people have been wondering if I've been getting, because they always see me with a can of something. I'm like, dude, no.
All right, we got the.
It's a choice.
Guro Ace, same thing. I mean, so Datu Tim went ground up. It sounds like your scenario was a little different. So what was that moment for you in that?
So it's no secret I've done Korean arts, Chinese arts, Japanese arts, Thai arts, things like that before. However, when I started my FMA training in the early 90s, I was already versed in like the business side. Let me start it that way. I understood the business. I understood the teaching. I understood all of these other things. However, there's this Filipino martial arts school, which was a full-time Filipino martial arts school. But when I went in there, was it professional? No, it wasn't professional. So I became the program director there because I raised my hand. I said, I need to help this because this is a very, very cool system. It just needs to be married along with. So I took a lot of that time and I personally marketed. I personally took the phone calls. I personally did the intros before they ever met the head instructor. So these people were getting put in there. So in that head, I'm like, this is a legit operation. This can be no different than any other martial arts, et cetera, et cetera. So that was in a different part, a different county, a different part of Jersey. I wound up going back home and visiting one of my old Taekwondo schools. And it was like 18 people left. Like 18 people left. And I walked in, they're like, he's back. But I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the head instructor. And they're just like, could you go teach?
Our saving grace is back.
So, well, I'm Filipino. My parents wanted me to do physical therapy, all these other things. So when I went back in there, I did take over this. It's 18 people. So if you want to say, is that ground up? Okay, 18 people. It had all these windows, and one window said Taekwondo. One window said BJJ. One window said Filipino martial. So it was. I actually gave it equal billing. But guess what? Everybody wanted to do Muay Thai at that time.
Okay.
Right? I wasn't Thai, but I was one of the only. Now, here's another quick story. I say BJJ because at that time, this is what, like 97, 98, 9. We had so many people from Jersey traveling to New York to go to Renzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
I know, Gracie's. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. We were near a bus stop. Guess what? All these people that wanted to go to New York are like, I can't afford to keep going in the city to go BJJ. We became one of the first Northern Jersey BJJ schools. You see where I'm going with that? So this goes back into the whole club thing. So what were we? We were whatever the public wanted, but you got to be careful. But how did you market yourself? So why didn't more people want to do the FMA? Because if we just wrote Filipino martial arts, nobody knew what the heck it was anyway. So we're like, oh, see, it doesn't work. We thought it was supposed to, right? You understand what I'm saying? Okay.
I do.
Now, when I'm in this location, this is a very interesting story. Small location, out of the way, et cetera, et cetera. I came in here to help out somebody else because they needed help. So I came in here, what's going on? Hey, I need an instructor once or twice a week to do what? I had to teach a Taekwondo class. I'm like, I'm not teaching Taekwondo though. It's not what I do. Well, go teach them something. So I started teaching them something. So guess what? They think they're going to Taekwondo class. I wasn't teaching Taekwondo. And after a couple weeks, the guy's like, they like you. They like what you're teaching. They don't know what it is. But you see where I'm going with that? Because like we're putting all these labels. People like it. They don't know. You still got to put it out there. And one of the other programs that was kind of here was a Krav Maga program. So I called I think this is kind of an important story. I called a buddy of mine, good friend, still think he's a really good friend, and said, listen, they got a Krav Maga program. I might be taking this whole thing over. Can we do Krav Maga? Can we do your organization Krav Maga? Can I become an instructor and do that? And he's like, no. I go, what are you talking about? I go, but I'm like 5 miles away from you. No. I go, your literal guidelines say I can do it. I'm 5 miles away. And goes, but if you open, I feel like they're going to go to you and not me. So I love you, brother. Right? You got to be careful when they say, I love you, brother, but. So they were literally, now think about that. Were they trying to spread the art of his Krav Maga and his organization? Or were just like, yeah, but I don't want you around because you might take market share. Even though the guidelines of his sanctioning body said, I'm totally fine to be able to do it. As a matter of fact, I spoke to the president, he goes, go for it. But my friend said no. So out of respect for my friend, and he said this, you can go to another Krav organization. Just this one would make me really uncomfortable. So I felt it in my heart. I really don't want to make this guy. If I go to another organization, I'm still kind of like making him feel bad. So let me call one of my other teachers to Hanapalo. Be like, they got this self-defense program. What do you think? What do you think I should do? What do you think he said? He goes, why don't you just make the whole darn thing an FMA thing? Right? You see where I'm saying that? Because I'm trying to take this one school that was like, it was not at the height and it wasn't mine. So I didn't convert my students. I'm going to somebody else's school to do something completely different that they've never done before, to do something that they've never even heard before. So I also, that's actually harder than scratch, because when it's scratch, you know what you're coming into. Now I'm like, hey, by the way, I went to this Italian restaurant. What do you mean it's Indian food? You know what I'm saying? It's like, there was a huge learning curve for them to be able to come in, because they're thinking that one spot was actually something else. And then in a very short amount of time, because it was my intention to say, I wonder how quick I can get my second school going. So that's how it kind of progressed into that. And you know, if people want to ask a little bit more on more particulars, I'll do that. I just want to monopolize the time on that. But that's what it was. It was never supposed to be that. It was supposed to be once or twice a week. I would use the place. I could make my videos for YouTube or whatever it turned out to be, and be able to use it. And it turned into, now people heard, now they're coming in, now that you implement all the marketing stuff that you normally would to make it a full-time academy.
Okay.
But I didn't reuse the schools that I had and brought up a lot of students in that location. This is a completely new spot, completely like no reputation of me being here, doing anything, but front and center, it is it's called Filipino Kali Academy. And to Datu Tim's, yes, for the people who can't write that down, I say, by the way, it's called FKA Martial Arts, right? So it's Filipino Kali Academy, 1000%. It's Filipino Kali Academy. Only very recently I said, just for the sake of emailing and things, by the way, it's FKA Martial Arts.
Okay.
And then at some point, people, and because that's where it came from, when I was teaching the class and somebody was doing a Taekwondo, they thought I was coming in. They didn't know what I was teaching. Let's not worry about labels. Let's not worry about somebody's master's and grandmaster. Let's not worry about which part of the Philippines. Give them something good. Understand what benefits they're looking for. Provide that as a service business, and somehow you will start to grow.
Awesome. Okay. So let's get into, all right, so we already got you guys' foot in the door. So let's get into how you guys, we're going to start getting into, so folks are listening now, we're going to start segueing into marketing, their intros. How did they grow their school? How did they become more successful? So, Dr. Tim, did your marketing, well, first of all, let's address your marketing, and did that change throughout the years, you know, based on your performance level and all that?
I had my dogs in the room, so I had to put the mic off.
Oh, okay.
Because if I shut the door, it's ugly here. So those are my four-legged children. So D. Crompton is that made a comment. Well, if I take the F out, what do I mark it? So my school's name is Horizon Martial Arts. Horizon. I've always marketed a name. I didn't want it to be Hartman Martial Arts, although it's one and the same if you really think about it. I wanted to have a brand, not a person. And the thing was that I had diversity over the years of supplemental systems that have been in. I had the first BJJ program in the area, but it was 2 nights a week. And it started because a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy from Canada came down to train with me and our niece. So he would teach once a week when he came down and all this other, because I'm right on the Canadian border. So, but my idea was that I loved martial arts, and I didn't want to restrict myself by calling it any one particular thing. So I went with Horizon. So when I market as a martial arts school. The sign on my wall says karate, because at the time that I opened up, I've had this sign for over 20 years. Karate was the popular word. It's less letters, which means the font can be larger. I could put martial arts, but now it gets smaller and smaller, and you can't read it. So if I put Arnis Kali Eskrima, no one knows what the hell it is. With Ace to an FK martial arts, still it's martial arts. When someone calls in, thank you for calling Horizon Martial Arts. This is Tim speaking. How may I help you? That's it. No one, listen, less than 5% of the people that come through my door are looking for Ernie's. Actually, I'm getting more now because my school is the headquarters of the organization. So it's getting that kind of notoriety. And I'm getting people who train literally from around the world. So I'm a little different than the norm. That being said, I've done this since, full time since 2000, and I've been teaching professionally since 91. If 5% of the people on average come through the door are looking for Filipino martial arts, that's probably a lot. Now, if you're in a Filipino-centric area, that's a different story, because now I've had people come in. I don't have a lot of Filipinos in my area and other parts of the region, but I know a lot of people who get a lot of Filipino students because they want their children to understand the martial culture. But here, I'm the only school. There's a guy. There's a guy that teaches. He used to be with Doug Marqueta and with Paquita Tercia, and then he got into Cali de Leon out of Toronto with June de Leon. Yeah. So he has that, but it's a gym. He owns a gym. Him and his brother own the gym together, and he teaches FMA a couple nights a week. So really, if we're talking this is I'm the only real school, because he only takes a few students. That's it's not what it's going to be. So with the approach, it's always been martial arts. I've generically marketed because I don't want to scare away people. I've never thought of myself different than anyone else. I say we're all the same community. We're all in the martial art community. So why would I put myself outside that community?
It's an interesting point. It's like you just made me think of something like, yeah, I'm FMA, I'm different. Well, that you putting yourself in that category maybe just ruined.
In my mindset, what's different to me is BJJ.
Yeah,
that's a different animal because that goes down the MMA route.
Yeah,
but even then, it's still martial arts. I mean, boxing is martial arts, although it's more martial sport. It's just a little different because we do some kind of. I mean, in the martial art industry, we usually have some kind of levels that are separated by, belts, sashes, wristbands, fill in the blanks, uniforms, whatever that is, But I never looked at myself as not being part of the martial art community. Matter of fact, what I did and still do, if there's a local tournament going on and I have time, I'll go and judge. Whether or not I'm going to have students there, I'll donate my time, paying it forward for when I was coming up, and people did that for me.
Okay. All right. Guro Ace. So marketing, what'd you do for marketing, and and for folks that are listening. Yeah.
So I really think that well, first of all, let's go into the original thing that Datu said. It's like, we're a martial arts school. To say but I'm not a martial arts school, I'm a Filipino martial arts school. You're already positioning yourself, because even Filipinos don't even know what Filipino martial arts is, right? So who are you marketing to if those people don't know anything about it, right? So if I have an iPhone, I want to find people who may have a want and need for something. So let's talk about, what does Filipino martial arts offer? Well, all right, let's go back one. What do martial arts offer? Let's go back even further, because I just did a workshop at a community college, and I said, raise your hand if you've ever taken a martial art before. 3 people raised their hand out of like 50. And I said, name some martial arts. And they were like, Taekwondo, Kung Fu, because there was a panda movie about it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So some of the marketing is the marketing that other people are doing. And then you utilize that.
Oh, you piggyback off that. Okay.
Because the marketing for a real business deals with real money. Most of us don't have that kind of real money. So here's what I do. Listen, I've never had a business card. I might have. Have I ever used it? I probably should have. Do I have brochures? I probably should have. There's so much more I could have done. But let's assume most people are like me when I started and say, I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a graphics designer. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. We all know if you want to properly start your business, you probably should have all those things in place. Here's the one thing you got to at least do. If you got one person interested, did you ever ask that person, is there anybody else that you would like to train with also? That's it. That's it. Because if you've ever done, we're so happy. Oh, this guy called. He wants to come into class. Oh, let's clean the place. You're catering completely to that one person who still might not join, but you're not even asking about the 500 other friends that they're on Facebook and IG and things like that, right? So here's an example. I had somebody contact me and goes, I would like to be able to take your class. And I said, is there anybody else that you'd like to bring along with you? I don't know. And I said, well, that would be a great discount if you brought someone. It's healthy competition. It's all the stuff I said. Healthy competition. When you want to train, they'll come. When they want to train, and make sure that you still come. It would be a great experience. So he brought his sister. Okay. Okay. Guess who joined? The sister. Guess who didn't join? The person who actually called. The person who actually called said, oh, it wasn't for me. But the sister who, because I asked. So when I say I have 100% close ratio, the reason I say that is because if I have one person call me and they might bring 1 to 2 friends with them and one of them joins, I actually am at 100% for the number of people that called. I actually have more people that join because somehow I'm able to make them market for me, right? If they come in, do I encourage them to say, hey, what? You want to, be like, hey, this is pretty cool. Hey, do you want to do a selfie? Yeah, let's do a selfie. They post it on their page that they just took their first Kali class. They talk about so if people are like, I'm at the gym, right? People are like, man, he looks good. Maybe I should join the gym. We don't want to have a ninja school. What do I mean by that? Nobody knows we're here. Some people train with us, but nobody knows the actual people who train. Right? We want everyone who at least trains with us to let other people know. And suddenly those people become our marketers because if they're still with us, they're very excited. They're telling all the benefits for us. And then we just basically, and it's up to us to be able to ask them. So how do you get 20 students turn to 40? How do you get 40 turn to 80? How do you get 80 to turn like to 150? Can someone bring one? Can someone bring one friend? One family member? Because if you watch UFC, there are chances your friends like UFC. So if you're in a group where just like, yeah, I just saw this thing about self-defense, they might want to learn about self-defense too. They might want to do the things that you do. Now we can go into influencers later on because at some point, hey, listen, if you can get the mayor to train with you, at some point he might endorse you, right? Everything that I'm talking about is the free stuff, by the way. That's the free stuff. I'm not going to talk about the budget, the graphics,
No.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, how would somebody else explain your class after they took your class? I guarantee you they're not going to talk the master's grandmaster, which part of the Philippines. It was really called this, but if you're from this part of the Philippines, it's pronounced this way. I don't think they're going to talk about it that way.
No, I don't think so either.
But that friend is an easy enough recruiter to say, hey, Spider-Man's coming out. You want to go see it with me? And all of a sudden they wind up going, right? It's not that complicated to get somebody to do something with you. So for me, that's the marketing side. That's not the closing side. That's a totally different thing, right?
Yeah.
But from the marketing side, to let people know that you are there because they do that, that's pretty simple. Go out there, go do a workshop for a college. Go look for a women's group. Go look for, obviously for the community, like people who have been hurt, work with the law enforcement, work with local government, because guess what? They're looking for it. They're like, you have a project. If you go to someone and say, hey, listen, there's a project that I would like to contribute for the community. I happen to have, and by the way, if you don't have a school, it's hard to do that, right? You're like, I happen to have an establishment in the area. I would love to be able to invite the community to be able to join me on a self-defense workshop, on a wellness workshop, on a family protection service, things like that, right? So articulating it in a certain way, as opposed to, hey, come down for the karate school, I got a discount, I got a free pass for you. Now you're getting, right? I mean, you can get into the the salesman-y type, which everybody understands that, as opposed to come check out what my tribe's doing right now, et cetera, et cetera. So some of the best marketing is displaying what it is. MMA had a hard start because they assumed everybody had a mohawk and tattoo, right, in the class. And then all of a sudden you show pictures and videos of what you're doing in the class, and all of a sudden they're like, that looks like a mom like me. That looks like a dad like me, right? So if you're talking about blade this, the most lethal techniques that you can survive, and da-da-da-da, some people may decide to do that. And by the way, when I was a bigger MMA school, Muay Thai school, things like that, I was called crew training, KRU training, because crew means team.
Okay.
It was called crew training. Like the American word was what? Hey, be a part of my crew. We were team training. Hey, it was crew training, teacher training. But it was at least giving them that generic sense that Dr. Tim was talking about. They can find the rest out.
Yeah, when they're in there, right, down the road.
Yeah, a little bit later.
Sure. No, well, okay, so on the market. Okay. Richard, I still got your question from last time, Richard. Really, okay. Intros. So tell us about, for those who might not even know what intro means, how to go about it, what you do. I'm going to segue into closing, but let's hold back on that. But just intros. Tell us, assume the audience doesn't know about them. Tell us about them and why they're important. Dr. Tim.
Well, an intro is an introduction, and people run things a little differently. So, it's gonna be, if we're talking about how to do this, it's going to be a lot different than if you're teaching out of the park or a gym or something along those lines. So I'm going to be relatively generic on this because each situation is going to be, but when someone comes in, here's the thing. The most important thing about an intro is not throwing the student to the wolves. So you talk to someone and you go, hey, listen, we do an intro. No, I just want to hop in the class. I go, have you done this before? Yeah, I have. Where do you train? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, you never heard of it. Most likely I haven't if it's out of a town. Oh, what did you think? Well, I was thrown to the wolves and really had a bad experience there. So what you're telling me is you want that experience a second time in a row. What do you mean? I go, wait, I want you to come in or show up early so I can show you a couple fundamentals before you go out so you're not lost. It's a familiarization, the thing here is when you're doing an introductory to what you're doing, whenever possible, you want to do it before the class. You don't want to bring them into the class unless you have enough people that can take them to the side and go, hey, listen, you're going to shadow this person today. They'll say, hey, Ryan, I want you to work with Sam here, help him through the day. Really what you want to do is, like, since I have a physical location to come, hey, how you doing? My name's Tim. In this class, I'm Datu Tim. Or if it's a kid, say, hey, I'm Datu Tim, with the parents. And I give them the tour. So first thing I do is, all right, here's the shoe rack at the door. If you're doing class, you put your shoes there. Dad, if you're just going to be watching, you don't have to take your shoes off as long as you're not on the mats. Here's where the shoe rack is. Here's where the coat rack is. Here's where the washrooms are. All the key things. When you come in, you will check in here with Miss Janice or whomever's at the front desk. And here's your training area. Now over here is the lobby. And then I've got these cubbies that act as a barrier between the parents or the lobby and the floor, but you can put your gear in there. I'll give them those physical things so they understand they're just not popping on. Now, here's a little key that we started doing recently. For new people coming in, we actually take a tray, like a nice TV tray, but a real nice one. And we do a uniform. So I got people I probably get 20% of my clientele, I don't even talk to. They sign up online. There's an online offer. They sign up. Actually, it's probably higher than that. I get very few walk-ins these days. So what I usually do is when they sign up online, I tell them to come in early so we can go through this. But what I'll do is have this nice tray. It has their uniform on it. It has we have school wristbands, those silicone wristbands with our school name on it, the website, and the phone number. For the kids, I have a pencil box or a pencil bag, and I have a ruler and a pen in there, and I have a little plastic sign that says "Welcome Joe" or Zoe or Tim or whatever. And that makes them very happy when they come in. They've also probably scheduled. So when we sign up, because we use online software, it says you need to call to make your first appointment. So I talk them, and I know what day they're coming. Let me schedule this. I know what day they're coming. So when someone comes to the door new, and let's say they got, like today, we had a new guy with a little girl come in and go, "Is this Zoe?" And wouldn't leave Dad whatsoever. So here, come here. And Dad came in, gave him some wristbands. She was all happy, and then she warmed up real fast. But so it depends on what we're trying to desensitize people, because they're a little overwhelmed when you walk in and all this action is going on. People don't want to interrupt. So whether you're teaching a child or an adult, once again, we'll go back to the adult. If you have had the experience where you've been felt like you've been fed to the wolves, just thrown on and have to fend for yourself, you want to come in and bring these people in and say, "Hey, listen, here's where everything is. And listen, here's the protocol. You got a question, you just ask me. I am, you're paying for a service. I'm the one that's going to give it. You got a question? There are no dumb questions here. The dumb question is the one you don't ask." Now, when you take them through all these things, and if they didn't sign up, let's say they came in and they're just going to do an intro in general, I do one intro and one group class free of charge. Still got to fill out a waiver. There's information that captures their material or information. So I get their phone number, their email address, usually physical address, get all that stuff, sign the waiver. If they're too young, the guardian signs the waiver, but we take them through. And the big part about an introduction. So, and once again, let's go back to, even if you're doing this in the park or something, is to make sure that people feel that they're not being thrown to the wolves, because you're going to bring them from the ground up. That's your job. And the thing to remember when we're doing the intro is we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for them.
Correct.
And sometimes people, when they're trying to sell something and sell the program, because we're selling all the time, they're selling it to themselves, not to the person in front of them. So if you don't know if you want to practice, find someone in your circle of influence that doesn't know a thing about this, and have them come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to do a first class intro with you. Can you help me?" And just critique what I did. And then have them do the class, have them sign the waiver. Maybe they'll sign up too.
Yeah. It's Guro Ace. So intros, and I'm actually really curious because this gym asked me to try to develop a martial arts program for them. So this is actually information for me too. So intros, sure. Dr. Tim doesn't charge for intros. Do some places charge for intros?
Okay, so let's get into the semantics of terminology. So
yeah,
let's
probably
do
a better one
first, okay? Because somebody asked, "Do you do intros?" But then whoever asked that obviously heard of intros. So that's why they asked that, right? What do most people do when they call up any martial arts school? They'll say, "How much are lessons?" Here's the thing about a full-time school. It's not that you're hiding it. You're not shady. You don't know what they want yet. Because the assumption somebody will say is, "Well, I'm $100 a month." Based on what? You're putting them into some group classes. However, do you have a program where maybe they do a hybrid of privates and groups? Because it's a question you can't answer. It's not a question you won't answer. It should be a question you can't answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's go with the first thing. Number one, there's a lot of gyms, right? I'm not talking about martial arts schools that would just do a tour. "Hey, would you like to take a tour of the gym?" And they joined the gym based on the tour. They just saw stuff. Does that make sense? Okay, they didn't take a class. They didn't even do a workout. They checked it out. Okay, so the purpose of inviting that person to come to your school is to be able to see if you see the staff, see the facility, get a little bit of more of your personal questions answered, and the benefits that you're looking for will match on what we offer, right? It's not what we sell, it's what are you looking for, and do we actually provide that? Okay. And then outside of that, our personal thing is, do we want you here? Because we're a private school. What does that mean? There are going to be some really shady people. They're like, yeah, I heard I learned how to stab people here. Maybe it's not about the price. You don't want that person here. So it's they're getting an introduction to us, but we're getting an introduction to you. Okay. So there's a tour. There's an intro. Intro to what? An intro to the group class. So now when you offer an intro, what you're saying is, we would love to give you an audit of what our class is typically like. So when you audit a class in college, you're sitting in and you're seeing, how does the professor speak? What do the students do? Do the students even do anything? Do they just leave a recorder and come back later? So that would be a definition, in, at least for me, an intro class is an audit of a class. Here's something that might throw some people for a loop. If someone does an intro class and they join a group class, do they even have to do the whole class? Can they come in, be a part of the warm-up, learn something, and then you pull them to the side even before the class ends? I guarantee you that person, but wait, I want to stay for the rest of the class. Isn't that that's kind of cool, right? That's like leaving the party before, right? Nobody wants to stay longer after the party. They want to stay at the party. An assessment. Okay, so the third one is an assessment.
Okay.
If you have a curriculum, this is a whole separate topic. If you have a curriculum, you probably have in your mind what you want to cover in any given class or during that week, which means you have a flow of how that class is supposed to go. Not every person is best suited to fit in that flow. There could be an injury. There could be attention issues. There could be something that happened traumatic to them where they need a lot more like a coach with them the whole time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're assessing, and I'll do the low-hanging fruit. It's a 5-year-old, it's an 8-year-old, it's a 9-year-old. Does that kid keep looking around and wind up calling your attention so that you can't pay attention to everybody else in class? That person is doing an assessment, and if they don't do well in that assessment, is one of your prescriptions just like a doctor who's assessing you. I would love for them to start out in our privates program so that they can get ready for our group classes.
Wow.
Not everyone is suited to be in the group.
Right off the bat. Okay.
Right off the bat. And if we're an honest teacher, we assess that. Okay. If you do exercise, what do they say? Please consult a physician. What are they really saying? I don't think you should be lifting heavy weights or hanging from bars. They're telling you that. So they're saying, don't do this. You might want to start with that. So you might have a basics program, but you might also have in mind a prep program. The whole point of that prep program is to get them ready to do the basic program in the flow you would like to teach it in. Otherwise, you tend to change. Everyone's thinking that one person in class right now. They're like, oh, this guy showed up in class. Hey, can you work with that guy? And now you just disrupted the flow of the class because of one person. It's not that it's bad he showed up. That class wasn't designed for that person.
It wasn't, right.
So if you sat down and all you did was, thank you for coming in, here's my price sheet, you're the most generic, I hate to say it, you're just the most generic person in the world. You're not giving them a prescription from your expertise.
Right, by virtue of the assessment.
Somebody has an injury, somebody has a heart issue, somebody has attention, somebody, all those things play a factor. You should be creating an assessment, and from the very beginning, delivering that assessment either to the student or to the parent of that student, because when you test them later on, they're like, do you remember on day one? They're like, yes, here's the assessment. There's now something tangible that takes them from A to B. Now they're like, why would I stop doing this? Because you got me from A to B. But if you're still fighting that student, he still doesn't listen. He doesn't line up where he's supposed to. He swings the stick. He's not supposed to swing the stick. It's my fault now that I couldn't teach him. No, you put him in the wrong environment to be able to learn. Okay. Trial. Intro. Well, trial stands for trial membership. Are you selling a trial membership? 2-week, 4-week, 6-week course. So somebody might start in your program and it's not a free class. It's just like, why don't you just get started in one of our, I'm making it generic right now, but it's just like, why don't you join our Quick Start program? It's a 3-week program, 6-week program, 9-week program for this amount of price. And for this amount of price, you can be able to get your gear, your uniform, whatever it turns out to be. And they're like, well, that's cool. It's not like I'm joining for the year and I get all my stuff. So you can go all the way from a free assessment, trial, intro class, whatever you want to do. Now, this is for, again, if anybody wants to talk more about it, I'm happy to chat about it later on. That's part of the Blade program that we were talking about before. But now you have choices of what you want to do when you offer it, which also means you can rotate your offers. The funniest thing in martial arts is this. You ever go by that school that's been there for 20 years and it's the same offer on the window? Like literally for 20 years? It's like our special, $19.95 with uniform. How is it special if it's always there?
Yeah.
It's a special on the menu if you happen to have tilapia, because it's not always on the menu. Yeah. So you might need to rotate and be like, right now, we're doing our 6-week prep program. Mm-hmm. Right now, you have a 2-class free trial. Right now, you have a bring a friend. And just to piggyback, I always did a paid intro, but this is how I did. I think it was, I'm going to stick with this because this was years ago. It was $19.95 to be able to get your 2 classes. And you got like a t-shirt or something like that. I said, but our special right now, our in-house special is if you bring in a friend, you could split it with them. Right?
Okay.
So what happens is like, why would I spend $19? I'll bring a friend, I'll pay 10, I'll pay 10. My record is he brought in 8. Because they wanted to split $19 with 8 people.
Holy.
And even in that one, the first person who called was the one who didn't join. 7 of the friends that he brought did. So do you pay for it? Do you not pay for it? Marketing would say, do a split test. Do an A and a B. Figure out which one. Don't listen to me. Try it out and see what happens, or at least seasonally. If you're going to make a special, that's why it's a special, because it's not always there. There's like, hey, you know what time it is right now, right? It's Philippine Independence time. This is our once a year special. You got to be able to tell your friends this is the best time for it. So those are a couple different choices. People can comment on it, be as creative as you want, but the words could matter to some people. Hey, you want to come down for the assessment? You're assessing me, I'm assessing you. We're making sure so that as a coach, I can pick the program that makes the most sense for what you were looking for. Not the one program I offer that should be for everyone. It's the one that makes the most sense. And that's why even in the FMA, program, I have enough people doing that hybrid of doing privates and group classes, which I never got that in the Muay Thai and Taekwondo. I'm not saying they don't.
Yeah.
But FMA instructors have great chances of getting private business because of the way that they want to handle some of the subject matter.
Awesome. That was, I think, to me, what you guys said on the whole intro thing, top notch. So, all right. Let's just let's do a time check here, because I think you guys are absolutely right for part 3. What I was going to close on was the sale. How do you guys complete a sale, and what are your tips? And then part 3, curriculum, professionalism, availability, utilizing consulting agencies. Yeah. I think part 3 is in order. How's that guy sound to you? Oh, Jimmy.
Not a fan of the sale.
Yeah. There's no such thing as you don't need a salesperson.
Let's put it this way.
Okay.
If we're gonna try to, if the point of this show is to help people, that's not the topic they need help with.
All right. So how do you want to?
How about we each talk about something that we like right now, and then we can do another show. But I don't want to. I want to do something that I feel that people can take away from. How's that?
Let's do that. Yeah, whatever you guys feel. So why don't you tell us about something that will benefit who's watching?
Okay. So first of all, whatever you do, I don't care what the ultimate level that we're going for and how much you might have an elite program that maybe do even DBMA style dog brother martial art type fighting in there. You need to get people through the door, and we need to take them all the way up to the level that they can hit, whatever that is. And what annoys me, and especially in our industry, I've seen people in the FMA industry work doing demos at festivals, town festivals and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the comment was made, well, I never got anyone from that. I go, well, do you have a copy of this? Can I see it? Sure. And it's someone who's he's notable on the internet in the FMA industry. A lot of people would have heard of him. I'm not going to mention his name, but I watched what he was doing, and basically at a town food festival or something, he was doing dog brother martial arts. So live stick, minimal armor, beating the shit out of each other. Needless to say, no one was even interested in inviting him back to another one.
Can't imagine why.
The thing here is, it's not that we can't do those things, because I fight just shy of dog brothers. I use a weak calf helmet. I do gloves, knee pads, and elbows, and I do a lighter stick. I'm 57 years old this May. I am the product. I teach, for those who've been watching the show, I teach all over the place. And Craig Mason, who was on my show the other day, we talked about sparring, and twice a year I go back. I really should do a Dog Brothers gathering. And then I go, no, I really shouldn't. And I should, and I shouldn't. And I've done some pretty hardcore stuff in my group. But the thing here is, I would never do that at a town function. Now, if you want to teach a school, you need to be willing to teach children. And that's just the nature. That's it. I mean, you have to be awful special to have a full-time FMA program with no kids involved. Simple as that. Inisano teaches children. Need I say more? So, or maybe his staff teaches, but he has a kids program. When we market, including doing demos, we got to make the parents, even though the tough teenagers, feel that their children, their family members, their husbands, their wives, their kids will be safe in our school. And if all we're doing is this hardcore stuff, it's going to give this. I mean, it's like, if you're doing a full, when you're doing Muay Thai, Ace could probably tell you on that. When you're banging it out, if you're teaching nice pad drills and combinations of that nature and a good positive environment, you can work all the elements without that physicality of people getting hurt. Or you can go to a hardcore gym and have blood on the wall and the floor and the mats and all that other place and only have a small amount of people doing this. I think what we have to do first is if whatever we do, find someone who doesn't do what we do and show it to them first. And I don't mean another martial arts like Taekwondo or karate. Talk to a mom, talk to a girlfriend, talk to anybody in the family that hey, listen, would you take your child here if you saw this ad? Would you, if you saw this activity, what are you thinking? And once again, my windows have graphics on it, but when the lights are on, you can see through it. It's called vision graphics. I have blackout blinds that I can pull down and make sure that the public outside doesn't see what we're doing. So we can have more intense workouts for that group.
Oh, without them, I got you. Without them seeing.
Because people pull up in front of a window and look. Now, if you don't have any windows in your place, it's no big deal. But optics are so important. And the thing here is, people will walk in and we can say something that's completely legit. I mean, there's plenty of times we see footage on the internet where there's no audio. You see a snapshot of something and you make a judgment on it. Usually when law enforcement videos, you see a cop punching somebody in the face and you say bad cop. And then the full footage comes out a week later and you say, oh, that cop was protecting himself. Or the situation could be reversed. Oh, that guy had it coming to him. Then we see the footage later. Oh, the cop was bad. We got to stop looking at the selfie. We got to look at the big picture. And the problem with our industry is sometimes we're thinking all about marketing to ourselves and not to others. And that's, and I it just annoys me when I see that. And I think if we thought about that as people coming in, from the outside, we would, we'd probably do a lot better, and that goes to things like when you look at tournaments. That's why I'm not a big fan of the WECAF style tournaments, because the spectators don't get it. I like MMA because you get it. Someone got knocked out, tapped out, choked out, done. Boxing, you got knocked out, done.
Yeah,
Point karate makes sense whether you like it or not. And first blood / point stick fighting makes sense. But when you watch continuous, if you don't have the eye and know what you're looking at, you'll be like, the masses will be, how do you tell who won? And we got to look at everything from those eyes, from people who are uneducated in what we're doing, and see what would you, I mean, listen, I said, when I saw hardcore shit coming up, I'm like, dude, I'm in everything. Show me the way, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, I don't think Joey's mom would have really let their kid in here. And I've got some pretty good kids. I mean, one of them just got done doing Spider-Man No Way Home. And if the parents didn't like what they were seeing when he was 4 years old, he wouldn't be training with me all the way to now where he's 30-year-old and still doing stuff. So, we just got to make sure that we don't scare away the clientele. And I think that's part of the problem.
Okay. No.
But I mean, we could get into more detail and other things, but I mean, you had a lot of questions there. And probably the biggest thing is our image needs to change.
Yeah, which I definitely going to get more into that. The next one, as well as all the other stuff that we didn't get to. But hey, I think this is good. I mean, I'd rather do this instead of giving quick answers. I mean, I'd rather you guys give extreme detail for those who are watching and really want to learn something and benefit from this, as opposed to quick fire answers and nobody's really learning or getting the essence of what you guys are talking about. So if you guys don't mind, I certainly don't mind doing a third one. But Guro Ace, anything like you far special that you would kind of like what Tim just did, or
to close out tonight? It's one of those things that the original question is, should we have more schools? I'll always keep focusing on that. Having a school is nothing other than scaling what you're currently doing. So if you're teaching a small group, you're just saying, I have a lot of experience teaching this one group. But what if one day you had to do a seminar and there was 50 people there, 80 people there? Do you have the experience? How would that feel? How professional would that turn out? Where you're like, you stand here, you do that. You brought your kid. Oh, your kid's here. You should. This allows us to scale. This allows us to do more. This allows us to reach people. This allows the next generation to come in. And I love the fact that, hey, listen, it's like anybody can raise their hand and goes, yeah, but I do teach kids. I have this 5-year-old. I'm like, but what if there was 25 of them in front of you? Well, that is not the same thing. It's really not. And if you're going to say, but I'll figure it out, then you're just going to make a very long curve by not going into the things that have already been figured out. It goes, so sometimes, yeah, you might have to talk to the non-Filipino martial arts guy to figure it out. Like I said, I'm sure Datu is reachable and I'm accessible, things like that, and talk certain things on the side. But that's what I feel like it's about. It's about understanding that if you really dream about it, be like, man, I wish I could be able to teach a seminar and it was this big and this and that. But if I have no experience in that, how do I learn that? And that's by putting all these like small, more achievable goals in front of you first.
Okay.
You might not get Datu Tim's like looking gym with the mats and the see-through graphic. It might not start that way, but you're going to start somewhere. You're going to get much better at it. Thank you for all the people that are reaching out to me. Reach out to other people's, see what's good is good enough until you get better, and then better becomes, you get kind of, much better at that over time. So for the people that are watching, that's that thing that you have to look at. And I'm going to ask one kind of weird request. For the people that are watching either live or replay, can you do me a favor? Can you write down a price, what martial arts lessons should cost? Can you just do that? Because I need a baseline for the next one.
Actually, for those who are charging, what do you think Your monthly tuition should be just if you were just in general. What would your base lesson be?
I think this is like as we go into the next one, because you're talking about sales and closing and this and
No,
that.
that's
Before we say a darn thing, what does the public actually believe it is?
So what I can do is,
I have tons of comments later on. Should we wind up addressing that? But we just need to get into the mindset of where people are at, and then now it's just math.
okay.
By the way, it's always been math when it comes down to that, right? Yeah. It's just math.
So when I make a new flyer for the next one, I can just tie it in, folks. What do you think we should charge?
Well, and that's, listen, I think we need more people to log in while we're doing this, because I've been watching the phone. And hey, Vic, thanks a lot, by the way, for the compliment there, and all the guys have been saying stuff. I think it needs to be a little more Q&A, but I think some of this is too specific, i.e., we're talking about upgrade programs and all this other stuff. I mean, that is so advanced. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I started FMA Professionals. Was it Jason Cruz from Kali Method reached out to me long before COVID. He was about to close his school. We talked on the phone for about 40 minutes to an hour. He messaged me the year later. I go, dude, you saved my school, and I did that free of charge. It was my basic 101. Then it was like, hey, do you have any contacts in Belgium? I'm beginning to do stuff over there. I go, that one you got to pay for, But the thing here is, I did 101 things like talking about uniforms, equipment packages, billing, reoccurring billing, stuff along those lines. I mean, like if we talked about the difference between a trial versus a intro. And we talked about there's a couple different ways you do your trials, and one of which is I price mine high because I want to vet the people who don't have the money. And here's the thing. I am not McDonald's. I am not Burger King. I'm not Wendy's. I go with a bistro mindset. So I'm a smaller club. Well, I mean, it's a big club. It's 5,000 square foot. But I'm going for a quality of service, and I charge for that. And this is when I was charging $130 a month, which I'm north of that now. And we can talk about that on the next show. I had a guy from the inner city come in and goes, kid asked me, well, what's going on? How much you charge? I go, well, $130 a month. They're like, well, that's so expensive. I go, what are you doing? Well, I'm in a rec center. Okay. So besides the quality of instruction, do you have judo mats? No. Do you have a functioning bathroom? No. Do you have heat in the winter and AC in the summer? Usually everyone has it the other way around. It's usually heat in the summer and AC in the winter. I mean, do you have all these things? And we go through all this of no. I go, and those are just some of the reasons why I'm charging this much money. But at the end of the day, nobody has my education in the area in martial arts. I'll guarantee it. First of all, no one's got Filipino martial arts. And when you look at the quantity and the quality of certification I have, I'll put my creds up against anybody in the area, because I don't look at myself as an FMAer. I look at myself as a martial artist. And, and a lot of times, once again, we said it the other day, Taekwondo is charging anywhere from $180 to $300 a month, depending on the city. And I think we can offer a lot more if we know what we're talking about. As a martial culture as a whole, we have just as much, if not more, to offer. Now, some cities are limited, and and when we talk about the next show, case in point, your knife fighting system. What's it called now? I mean, not yours, but the one that you're participating. Are you Piper still, or are you?
Piper. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's also like Tripwire and all this other bullshit.
Tripwire is a subsidiary of Piper.
Yeah, they left and they got whatever. Okay, so could you run a school on Piper?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so and then I know people who do the Tapado, which is very limited. Can you do a thing on Tapado? No. So you have to have a marketable product if we're talking about a dedicated school.
Marketable, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and if not, then we can always just focus on how to get more students and just realize you can't have that school unless you decide to do something about broadening your education and what you offer.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm thoroughly. I just hope you guys don't mind coming on a third time. I'm thoroughly enjoying these. I think they've been educational. I think they're going to do justice. I know a lot of people have watched this after I put it on YouTube that couldn't watch it, on the night that it came out, that was running live. So I'm not really worried about that. Again, though, I think I've really enjoyed them. I love these theme episodes. They're educational and all that. So I'm more than happy to do a third one. If you guys are game,
No, we definitely love to. At least for me, I'd love to be able to do that. And let's see that. Let's see if there's any comments of people who are on the fence and just say, you know what, I'm pretty much there. I want to do that. And we're not talking about the people who are ready. There are some people that are longtime students that don't look at themselves as anything other than, well, I'm a guy who's under a guy who's under another guy, and that could be there. So we really want to serve as that inspiration for that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your pedigree is. People do need a mentor in that, right? Like, you can have as many different masters and grandmasters say, grip the blade this way, strike the stick this way. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about a completely different section in the Venn diagram right now of saying, here is my business mentor for the martial arts, for me, my kids, my family. Because again, if we do a bad job of putting a bunch of new schools on the map, that still doesn't mean anything. Those schools have to operate in a way that those students are going to be like, I can't wait to open up a school just like yours.
There you go.
So we're talking about a generational thing, not the let's all just see if we can do it in 2022 and see what happens with no game plan. So the mentorship is so key, not the rah-rah right now. Not the you can do it, you can charge this. That's just rah-rah stuff. We need to be like, I got you, brother. 6 months from now, you're probably going to need more help than you did right now. 1 year later, when you have the intermediate students that think they know more than you do, and you see where I'm going with that? So there's a lot of heavy lifting in the very beginning, but there's definitely going to be that mile marker where I didn't know that was going to come. And that's how people get sucker punched in the business. It's the people who've gone through all of the tough stuff. I know, see, I'm wearing a long sleeve hoodie, right? But there's bruises all over this body. I'm letting you know, from all the wrong things that I did, which just kind of, that's the difference between being smart and being wise, right? Smart, I know something pretty intelligent to say, I can quote someone. Wise is from the experience. And the experience of, be careful of this, do that, go here. That's you want to get some wisdom from some people, not just opinions of what to do right now if they've never done it before. And that's the tough part, because at one point you don't want to sound like one person's bragging and the other one doesn't want to sound like they're being weak by having to ask questions. So if we can put that aside in everybody, I think as a community we can really do some really, really pivotal things.
I think so.
Now, and elevate the arts. Because the things that we're not good at, like how many people say, yeah, I want to listen to my Filipino martial arts instructor because he gave a really good school talk. No, we talk about how good we can be able to hit you, but we don't talk about the other benefits of bringing that child in, which actually creates value that people want to spend money on, real money on.
Right.
On a continual basis. So that's how I wanted to just end it with that, just a comment.
No, I think it's great. And
that mentorship, finding people who are in it, work together, and then even have a coalition with the people who have been, right? Those 20 schools that are out there. Does that mean they're like, oh, they're one of the 20, they're my competitor now? Or like, now do we now bond with each other even more and be like, that was a rough last 20, 30 years, right? We were all by ourselves. Now we got to find each other. So hopefully that's something that will also.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. But yes, Emmanuel, there's gonna be a part 3, so no worries, Emmanuel. You can catch it on. I'm gonna be downloading this on YouTube. So folks that are watching, there will be a part 3. We're gonna cover mentorship, some other stuff. Maybe touch on curriculum, the whole professional aspect, professionalism. We're gonna touch on that. And whatever other questions are going to be coming in, I'm definitely going to, on the next flyer, put questions as far as like, what do you think we should charge? You know, to you guys, you know, as far as mentors and all that. And so.
Listen, as far as that goes, here's what I'm going to tell everybody here. Unless you're already in the business, don't try this on your own. It's like one of those warnings you read. If you want to, you need to talk to one of us. It's as simple as that, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing it now, you got to know what to prioritize, and you know what I would tell people is all based on a bunch of different things they tell me, not one thing they would tell me. And you know, I focus on, you know, I don't know. There's just you definitely need the mentorship and accountability, because everyone, you have martial art, you have martial sport, you have martial combat. Who has taught you martial business? And if you didn't get those lessons, you're a white belt in that, and you might be a master in these three, or any two of these, or only one of them. But you need the fourth. So if you didn't, you know, I mean, we all backed into this. So what I would just sit there and say, before you try to implement, you should be talking to somebody who with more experience in this department. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to cover martial art business in the next one and the importance thereof and the consulting and all that. So I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm looking forward to part 3 and all that, and we'll go as long as we need to take it. I want people to really listen to this and really get something out of this. And for those few who perhaps were on the fence, and after hearing you guys, they get motivated, they find inspiration, and perhaps a few go actually and go do this. So I hope it happens, you know.
Did you want us to stay on after to discuss about a schedule, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, we can quickly do that if you guys got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, after you shut down the
yeah, sure. I'm gonna.
I got a couple minutes. Ace.
I'll put you guys. Yeah, I'll put you guys in the box.
I'm good.
Okay. So you get, and just give me a couple. All right, folks, that concludes episode 264, part 2. So again, I can't repeat this enough. I hope you guys, part 3, where they're going to get into the mentorship, the consulting, the business mindset, and again, not just being a white belt, you know, martial arts business. So that's going to be everything on level. We're going to pick a date, but that'll be part 3, kind of geared towards that. So again, hopefully this touches some of you guys that were maybe on the fence, and maybe this will give you the leap to go ahead and do it. That's the goal here, and that's what we're hoping to achieve. Who is next? Tomorrow, episode 265 with moderator Aubrey. So she will be our guest tomorrow, and that's going to be Guro Tom Pena and Brian Rodriguez. They'll be interviewing her. And it sounds like it was a pretty fun intro for a test run. So I'm guessing tomorrow is going to be kind of a fun episode. So if you guys are around, and I believe that's 3 p.m. Eastern time, you guys can check that out. And lastly, if you have not already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube, where all the money received goes to charity. We do not keep any of it. You will be helping us. You will be helping others. So by all means, please do that. All right, folks, until next time, thank you for jumping in, watching. And again, check out that show tomorrow, 3 p.m., interviewing Aubrey.